Hey, remember these guys? Well, I found another one. But I already painted both phases of Screech Owl, so my uncle was kind enough to take the plumicorns off so that I could paint a different type of owl. Now, the northern Saw Whet. So they are a little bit smaller than a Screech Owl, but when they're young, they're really fluffy, so they might look about the same size. And I bought some acrylic markers so that I can paint without whining about how long it takes to clean it up and get all the stuff out. So I'm using the acrylic markers for more of the detail work while I used paint and brush for some of the base coloring. I also chose the juvenile plumage of the northern saw-whet because I just like it better. I think it's really striking. It's a very distinctive coloration versus an adult northern saw-whet is another brown and white streaky bird. And I think there are plenty of those. Don't get me wrong, I'd still be really excited to see one in the wild. The northern saw-whet is the smallest of our year-round resident owls. They are known to live in mostly pine forests in the Upper Peninsula and Upper Lower Peninsula. And they get their name, Saw Whet, because their call sounds kind of like sharpening or whetting your saw blade against a stone. The story is that back when there were lumberjacks up in the UP in vast quantities, that at night at dusk they'd be sitting around the campfire and preparing for the next day and whetting their saw blades, and that would call in a whole bunch of these little owls that would just sit around the campfire on the trees surrounding them, and they didn't know anything about people, so like the lumberjacks could just go over there and pick them up, and they'd just kind of freeze and look at them. For those of you who don't know what whetting a saw sounds like, or northern saw whet does, I'm going to play a little clip for you. This is not one that I can do by my voice. Sadly, I don't have a lot of personal experience with the saw whet. Like I said, I've never seen one in the wild. I've seen them in captivity only twice, once at a wildlife rehabilitation conference when we went on a tour of nature centers in Ohio, near Columbus. I forget which nature center it was. And once, I believe at Kalamazoo Nature Center has one in their collection. Have you ever seen any northern saw whet in the wild or in captivity? Put it in the comments if you have. They were always on my wish list. I had put in if there was one available at a wildlife rehabilitator that needed a home, that the places that I worked would take one in. But luckily, they just didn't have saw whets coming into care. And of course, I'd much rather see healthy animals out in the wild than ones that have been compromised being stuck in captivity. Not that captivity is a bad gig, it's just they're meant to be wild. And you know, they have to be hurt to go into captivity, so I'd rather see healthy animals in the wild. Or rather, in this case, not see them in the wild, but just know that they're there. I snuck this little video in out of order because I did start doing a charcoal drawing of a horse, but I got frustrated with my materials, and so I needed to take a break from that. And this little wood blank it's a lot of fun to paint these little owls, and I think they're fun to do. So it was just the break that I needed from the horse that was stressing me out, and I can come to the horse with some fresh eyes maybe, and my paper will finally flatten. I really am liking these acrylics on wood, and I think the acrylic markers will make me like it even more. And I don't know if it's just that the wood blank tells you what you have to paint to some extent, or I don't know. I've really enjoyed a lot of the charcoal drawings too. But they're just so messy. Everything's such a mess. Listen to me whine about doing something that's fun because it's messy. I really want to get the butterfly wood banks. Maybe I will for Prime Day. And then I can start doing some butterflies of Michigan. I will not be doing all 150 species that are found here. And one I will definitely not be doing is the monarch because they're a little overrated in my opinion. But I would like to add the Powashik skipperling, and the Carnier blue butterfly and some of the endangered butterflies that people don't even know that we have here. Now the cabbage white, which is a butterfly and not a moth, while it's one of the more common ones, it'd probably be one of the more boring ones to paint. But definitely, I like that the butterfly wood blanks that I chose, they have 4 different designs of butterflies. So you have the different swallowtails and you have the different wing patterns that butterflies have that are different. My favorite Michigan butterfly is probably the morning cloak. It's one that overwinters, so it's one of the first ones that you'll see. It's a good sign of spring, early spring. And by the time early spring comes, I'm ready for signs of it. Do you have a favorite Michigan butterfly? Unless it's a monarch, put it in the comments. Another cool thing about the butterfly wood blanks is that I'll be able to paint the underside of the wings. I can paint both sides and just hang them like an ornament from the antenna. Now, the first time I ever heard that northern saw whet was a Michigan owl was a while back when I went on a Royal Oak Nature Society walk at Tenhave Woods and listened to Bob Mueller talk about owls, and we tried to call some in, but I had terrible owl hoot luck for the longest time, and they consistently at Tenhave Woods, they would do this walk every year 2 or 3 times, and consistently they would at least hear a screech owl call back. But every time that I happened to be on the walks, there was absolute radio silence. So I stopped going on those walks, and they had luck every time I wasn't there. So I just made the sacrifice of letting other people hear owls. Now that would have been back in like 2006, 2008 kind of timeline before I was truly a naturalist myself. At that time, I still worked with cut flowers and bouquets, actually, and I was working at Party City around that time as well. So not very environmentally educational, but I learned a lot about wildflowers working with the cut flowers, and you'd be surprised how I learned scientific names of the wildflowers working with the cut flowers, and that was pretty strange. I had started volunteering at the Detroit Zoo around 2005, and I started in the butterfly garden there. So I was just starting kind of my odd education and environmental education. It doesn't show in the reference photo of the juvenile saw whet. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But their wings are this kind of dark chocolate color with just a little bit of white around the flight feathers on the edges there. Or if you really don't believe me, you can always do a Google image search. Do you agree with me? Do you think that juvenile plumage has more interesting colors? Or do you like the brown and white streaky look of the adult northern saw whet owl? There's just something about that buff colored belly and the gray around their eyes and the white highlights. It's like they were painted. So what do you think I should do next? I'm thinking it's probably time for a bat. As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that nonsense. And there's our northern saw whet juvenile.